Right, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Lives podcast. Today we've got a good friend, Mark White. Founder of Ungrateful, along with many other very exciting ventures. Been a fan for a long time and a friend, obviously. Take us back. How did you get to becoming, as of tomorrow, 22 years sober and getting involved in this space?
Well, straight in there, mate.
Big questions, yeah.
Still on that, many other things. As the older I've got, the more I'm trying to just tighten up on my mind. You know what I mean? And my focus is etc. So yeah, like you mentioned, Ungrateful is pretty much my full focus these days, which is all roads have led to today being here with you. So thanks very much for having me on.
Pleasure, mate.
Appreciate it. Powerful lives. Have I got a powerful life? I don't know. I'm still here. I'm 22 years sober tomorrow, as you suggested. So for a lot of people, including myself, I never take that amount of time for granted. But yeah, it's been a long time. And but for me, very quickly into that journey, I kind of realised that actually sobriety is state of mind. You know, obviously numbers matter. And 22 years matters, and there's a lot of lived experience, you know, being sober and yeah, everything that's kind of brought over time. But ultimately, you know, without sounding too romantic, it's about today. It's about who I am today, what I'm up to today, who I'm trying to be today, and not actually ever necessarily striving to be more, because sometimes that can go against you, at the same time, but. Yeah, just like what's realistic within today.
I found you've always been first. You've done loads of firsts. You know, like your innovational skills are brilliant, and it's we've seen you get in towns give your town a run around and things like that. No one's thinking about these things, you know, and I don't think it's necessarily financially driven for you. No. I feel it's community driven, and just you're passionate about what you do, and you know, it's good. But how? At what stage? Because you was young when you sort of joined sobriety. Mm-hmm. What happened to actually make you think? What was you 18?
Well, you just said I'm, the first or one of the first. So yeah, do you know what? Even as you say that and feed that back to me, I don't realise sometimes that a lot of people say some very nice things, about what I get up to and some of the ideas that I brought to life and the complexities of creating things. There's a difference between what bounces up in between the years to then kind of making it tangible and for people to experience some of what you think of is amazing, really. And a lot of what I do now the last 10-12 years has been very kind of impact driven, social impact, kind of being of service in some way, and creating opportunities and spaces for other people to maybe get a sense of a different type of feeling, which is not so much instant gratification, more of a connection to, I don't know, themselves, or to kind of be part of something, feel part of something. And that's kind of where life has taken me. Sobriety has been a massive part of that journey, because of what I've felt whilst being sober is pretty extraordinary. And to kind of,
you must be one of the first. I mean, I remember my friend. You probably know Daniel Stock. I don't know if you know Dan.
Dan rings a bell.
Dan's been. I think he's been in CA. I think he's come out for 21 years. Mm-hmm. And again, it was just unheard of back then. People went into the Priory, but they come out and they still seem to carry on. No one seemed to change. Mm-hmm. And you two are the only two people I know from that. Back in the real early days, have sort of stuck with it and been successful in what you're doing,
Yeah, no, it's as we all know, time moves so fast, in the current day, current conversations, the awareness around certain areas of life, i.e. sobriety, I think now is kind of, there's a big difference between addiction, alcoholism, and that side of the street to sober living. And some of what the conversation is now, people making life choices and feeling they've got the ability to make a choice. For me, it wasn't a choice. It was like a life or death situation. It was very compulsive, obsessive, destructive. You know, it wasn't nice, very dark, and yeah, I was young. I was 18. I had my 19th birthday in rehab, and just the way that it kind of
was it drink and drugs?
Drink and drugs, yeah. Drugs accelerate a lot of, you know, what happened. You know, if the drugs weren't about, or I wasn't so curious to see what drugs were like, then maybe I could have carried on drinking for a while longer. Yeah, so it does, kind of take you to a certain place maybe a bit quicker, just because of the consequences, and you know it's not so socially acceptable and blah blah blah. So,
well, I must admit, when you talk about drugs, I remember being in a boozer in Enfield years ago, and
the rifle.
No, it was it was Tommy's bar.
Okay.
Like and people would go in there and they would go and buy their gear before they bought a beer. And I've never done drugs, as you know. I've never touched drugs. Never been my thing.
Yeah.
Probably a bit like yourself. I quite liked being different. But I found myself back in that era as the odd one out. I was actually unsociable because I didn't do drugs.
Yeah.
Like mad. You know, being at parties and being the only one who's not sniffing gear.
Yeah.
Like and I used to just laugh. It's bizarre. But obviously I still like a beer. Would I ever go sober? Potentially.
Yeah,
you know?
Listen, it's each to their own. I've got no judgment. I'm completely neutral around everything like that. You know, I don't put myself in certain environments, mainly because it's just not part of my life. You know, I wouldn't not go to places. I haven't not, you know, if I've been invited at various stages to do certain things, I wouldn't say no through fear of I can't be around drink, I can't be around. It's just not my life.
But did it take time for that to happen?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
because obviously, you know, I think that's the thing, the fear of all of a sudden that big life change. You know, when someone, obviously our friend Ross Mack, good lad, he's coming on soon. He's a DJ.
Yeah,
he's in an environment that's surrounded by drink and drugs, and that's his work.
Yeah,
so he can't stop working.
No.
I think it's mad what he does. You know, he's in a nightclub every weekend, surrounded by what's pretty much killed him.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I'll take me out to people. And people like we've obviously got Dapper, who's doing big things. Like it's become not just socially acceptable. It's actually become quite a trend at the minute. I think more and more people, more and more celebrities are endorsing this sort of sober living.
Yeah.
Whether that's due to drink and drugs or just purely because they're having a clean life, you know? Like we do, I notice things. I notice that I'll miss a gym session if I've been out the night before. Or I might go and eat something bad because my brain's not actually switched on to where it should be because I've got 10 pints in me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, listen, it does interfere with the process. And like I said, for some more than others. And yeah, a lot of this stuff just slips off my tongue maybe because of the maybe amount of time, you know, that I've got. But yeah, none of it come easy. You know, them early days were were very, very, very tough. Like now for everyone, you know, everyone's got their own set of circumstances. You know, if there are consequences to your behaviour, then yeah, you know, it's not an overnight fix. You know, especially if other people are involved. So you just got to kind of build that trust with yourself and with others, and you know, learning is literally like learning to live again.
Yeah,
I bet. It's a new language.
Because everything you're programmed to do, you now kind of got to.
Yeah, you know, I was just in my own world for years. You know, just trapped in my own mind of just I mean, the best way to describe it is just darkness. You know, insecurity, inadequacies, fear, and then you know my behaviour. You know, in and around my drug taking, etc. You know, was never going to kind of give me a lot of self-esteem. You know, because I weren't doing esteemable acts. So then all of a sudden you're just beating yourself up, the shame, the guilt. And yeah, once it's all in the mix, you're never going to be walking around kind of smiling, laughing all the time, you know, because I never had no real sense of direction. I was never felt inspired. I was just always like, what is this place?
What was you doing for work back then?
Oh, wait, everything. Scaffolding for a while, worked in a book binders, you know, just
nothing.
Nothing. I was just trying to earn a few quid, and then I started to deal drugs, and that's not a good idea if you're a drug addict, you know, because that never went to plan. And so yeah, just ducking and diving and just doing what you need. I was a young man, you know, I was a boy really, like 16, 17, 18, and just doing what we done, and but yeah, then the consequences was just getting more and more, and I was just sinking, deeper and deeper into it, and then I had a decision. I was forced into a corner to maybe look at what I was getting up to. I was in a lot of trouble. I'd done a couple of not so good things, and it was go and seek a bit of help with this drug day centre over in Hertford, so not far from here. Or, kind of, the police are going to get involved. So
really?
I was a bit like, okay. So it wasn't rocket science, maybe what direction to go in. Even though I didn't feel like I had a problem, I was completely oblivious to completely in denial. So I entered into this day centre, and obviously not really wanting to be there, not really feeling like I needed to be there, but just to get me out of a bit of a sticky situation.
And you what, 19?
I was 18.
18.
Yeah, this was January 2002. And then I went to rehab in the June. Obviously, I'm 22 years tomorrow. So, there's a 6-month period there where I was kind of in and out, not really thinking I needed to be here, just thinking I was just, just going through a bit of a dodgy patch, and I was just a problem, I said a problem. I didn't think I was an addict, like a lot of people. And although the awareness around it these days, you've already touched on it, is a lot greater than what it was then. The perception of an addict was a heroin addict, needles in arms, nicking old ladies' handbags, or the alcoholic was somebody on the park bench, and they exist, and I know a lot of them, and they're incredible people now, and they've turned their lives around, and they've changed, and they've made amends, and now they're doing what they do. So, but that was the perception. I was an 18-year-old scrawny little, whatever. But listen, I was in trouble. I was in trouble. But it's a lot to, at any stage of your life, it's a lot to get your head around, just to kind of look at yourself in that way, and to kind of have that level of self-honesty, and to sift through the denial, and to look in the mirror and think, you need help. You need help. You're suffering. People around you are suffering. What you're doing is not good, no matter what way you look at it. So to go back to Val House, to be in that environment for a consistent amount of time, and to go there daily, you can't help but listen, and you can't help but, just get a moment, or even if it's a split second, that's sometimes all you need, a split second of hearing something and it really resonating with you, and
sticks with you,
and you're thinking, oh Jesus, because before, obviously you're not in that arena, so you don't hear people talking about their thoughts or their feelings, or you just kind of, I think it's a bit muggy, or you feel like you're alone with this stuff, or you can't kind of talk about this stuff because you don't show that level of vulnerability, and all these words like vulnerability, except mate, that weren't in my vocabulary. I was, like I said, it was just completely outside of my world.
I think we touch on this in general, like you say, done a bit of scaffolding and that, and especially in the masculine environments 20 years ago, vulnerability was a real chink in the armour. Like you couldn't show emotion, you couldn't show vulnerability, you couldn't show you had a problem, because it was like a weakness. I did feel weak. Listen, I was a sensitive kid, and that used to just kind of heighten my state of thinking something was wrong with me, and I was a bit of a cheeky chap at school, and kind of mixed my friendship group or whatever, like we were the cheeky chaps, and the ones smoking and doing all kinds of stuff, just having fun, really. Nothing too outrageous in regards to troublemakers, but just we were them ones. Everyone has them, them groups, and I was part of that group. But I can just remember just not quite feeling part of it, and just really insecure around it, and feeling really sensitive to these things. And you can't go, you just can't go digging with that stuff, because you just kind of keep it to yourself, then you, and just think, or whatever. But also there's a level of immaturity there where I was going to say, don't all 14, 15, 16 year olds, I think we've all had that, like we're not enough, or we're not, like you are insecure, you might be a girl that you like, but you don't, you're not who you are now at 15, are you?
Nah. And that's it. So it's all kind of in the mix. It's all kind of like, okay, what's to be looked at, just allow yourself to be young and free, and just go out and try different things and do different things. And but unfortunately for me, I was of that type where it took me down a certain road which was dangerous and was soul destroying and was dark, and it's not everyone's reality. Like I said, at that age, you're out, you're drinking, you're taking drugs, you're experimenting with things, you're going clubbing, you're doing X, Y, and Z, you're having a laugh, or what you think is having a laugh. Some people carry on, some people can't, and like I said, some people don't try anything at all. So this is just kind of my story and kind of how things were for me, and then you realise quite quickly that actually drugs are not the problem. You know, they were the solution for me. When I found them, they kind of created something in me which I needed at that time, because I was proper lost, and I didn't realise it, you know. But when I come across certain things, I was just like, oh, thank fuck for that, Jesus.
When you say drugs were not the problem, what was the problem?
It was just me. It was just my outlook on the world, on myself, and just some of how I was kind of. I was just selfish, and I said, mate, I was young at the time, but I had all the ingredients of what the alcoholic was, you know, that kind of wanting instant gratification, and just wanting to kind of create this world around me, which was just I didn't want to feel anything, you know, and I didn't want to. Yeah, mate, it's just suffocating. You know, and so when drugs come along, it's just like, okay, all of a sudden I had a bit of enthusiasm. I felt a little bit different. I
boosted you up a little bit, like give you a little,
I feel like I was I could kind of contribute or kind of get involved in things, and maybe a little bit too much. And so like I said, it just so happened that very quickly certain things happened which put me in this environment, you know, and then I couldn't escape the fact of the truth, which was. For me to have any chance in life, or to have any type of life whatsoever, the drug. When I say drugs, drink included. I don't separate the two.
Would you ever do drugs without drink? Was you there?
Well, it's not just that. For me, drink is a drug. You know, for me. So I'm not trying to be kind of clever. Everyone's got their own kind of thoughts around that stuff, which ain't none of my business. But for me, as opposed to separating them, just put it all in one basket.
Yeah,
a bit of lazy language, really. Just. You know, so drugs is all encompassing.
It always seems to be, you know, that most people, again, that's what I brought up earlier, seeing people going actually doing drugs before drink, because most people, you'd look at it thinking that you're going to have a few beers, then someone starts ordering up some gear, or, you know, like it seems to be the way into it. Whereas I think now you are seeing more and more people who are just using drugs. And I think the younger generation seem like they can't afford to drink. You know, they are going to festivals and having what I'd class as dirty drugs, you know, but it's what they can afford, which is quite sad.
Yeah.
You know, like almost priced them into taking drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were to look at reality, which we kind of do, then it's just, there's lots of opportunities out there for everybody to do what they like, you know, and it's not good. You know, it's not ideal, but do
you know what done it for me? Leah Betts. I always remember, I must have been young, 13, 14, something like that. I remember Leah Betts dying and scared the life out of me. Drugs, I just put drugs and death together, and I'm sure it's not as bad as that, but that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I never wanted to touch a drug, you know, and everyone around me at that time were taking drugs, selling drugs, you know, like it was drink drugs. But for me, I was almost scared. I was scared into taking drugs, and then once I said no once, it kind of a bit like what you're saying. You want to be the first. I quite liked being the non-drug taking person in that group.
Yeah,
which is important. So many people do just follow the crowd.
Yeah, everyone needs a Brett. Yeah, no, they do. But like I said, it's hard sometimes for me to separate. It goes on, you know. So there's absolutely no judgment now. I've got daughters now. You know, my daughter's the age that I was when I went into rehab now. So like, I've got an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old, and you know, they're good girls. They're responsible young women, and so, but you know, just through their eyes, that this stuff still goes on. You know, generationally, like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Although that, you know, we've come on leaps and bounds in certain areas around awareness. As you mentioned, Leah Betts, how long ago was that? You know, people are still out there trying things, doing things. Unfortunately, some people die, some people, you know, it's just going back to my own story, which, hasn't always got to be so kind of extreme. There are people out there that can take it or leave it, or they have periods of their life where it kind of serves them well, and like I said, kind of is a solution because it gets them through little periods, or they just want a night out, or they just want a fucking weekend off or whatever, and this is like brilliant. They can take it, drop it, whatever, or they might go through a few years, and then then the family's happen and they want to settle down. Whatever the story, crack on. It's none of my business. Good luck to you. But as you know, because you've already mentioned a few of them for me, there are more often than not, if you really want to look at the harsh reality of what alcohol, and other drugs bring to you, very rarely does it bring much value. It just don't. And like I said, my story was kind of back then that. Yeah, for me to have any chance at life, that had to go, and I made a decision. So I was 6 months in and around. It got to June. I had the opportunity to go rehab, which not everyone gets that opportunity. It's real, and that is only through kind of support through local authorities and drug centres and stuff that. So it wasn't like I paid to go to the Priory or whatever. This was a shithole in Wales, beautiful shithole. I love it now, and it's obviously very dear to me that time, but it was like a scout hut, and, no TVs, no mobiles.
But that's what you needed, I suppose. Yeah,
like I weren't going there for any other reason that I just needed to break away, and the opportunity come up, and my mindset at that time was, because I've been around a few months, like I mentioned, I kind of got a bit of an insight into potentially what was wrong with me, and while I was doing what I was doing, I was ill, I was lost, I had no choice, I was obsessed, and I needed to kind of, like I said, I was full of denial and other bits and pieces. So to break away from that and to kind of try and tip over into another side of me, which was maybe a bit more hopeful, and to give myself a chance of a few days to kind of start to build another side of me and trying to build the self-worth and self-esteem, then this opportunity come up. But I remember saying, 2 days, so it was on the 12th of June 2002, I was going to rehab on the 14th, saying to myself, listen, whoever you are, whatever you are, you might not be an addict. Like I said, it might just be a young man, a bit confused, a little bit lost in something. You just need a bit of direction. You just need to sort yourself out. You need to grow up. You need to, just take responsibility and just fucking sort yourself out, mate. Just, one of them ones it could be. And so I said, just go. It was a 3-month rehab. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, just saying to myself, okay, just give it everything you've got. For the next 3 months, just be as honest as you can, get as vulnerable as you need to be, answer all the questions, do all the work, turn up at all the things. And if at the end of that 3-month period, it was just a blip and you've sorted yourself out and you could go back and have a few Stellas, then good luck to you. Crack on. But I haven't drunk since. So when I went in there and I dived into it, and like I said, I just got honest and I started to identify, actually, I am an addict. That's fine, nothing to be ashamed of. But now, what are you gonna do with that information? What are you gonna do with that level of self-awareness? Are you gonna kind of use it to go against you and to feel sorry for yourself, or is the only thing in life you can't do is take drugs? Then Jesus, what an opportunity you've got, and the age that you are. For a lot of people from the outside looking in might see you as lucky. At that time I kind of felt a little bit like I didn't feel unlucky. I started, the gratitude started to come into my life now.
Was that when did you start getting involved in the whole gratitude, and did you start meditating 20 years ago, or is that a new thing?
Like? No, we'll talk about that in a little while, no doubt. With something I just got up to a couple of weeks ago, But no, I've already alluded to the fact that this was a completely new way of life. It's a big choice, at any stage of your life to make any type of life-changing choice, whether it's, centered around, the choices that you're making in regards to drink and drugs, or whether you're moving out of a relationship or you're getting a new job, like anything that's actually going to have a huge life impact. And it's going to kind of not take you by surprise, but it's going to take a bit of getting used to. So, to be in this environment for that amount of time and to listen to the language and acceptance and admittance and amends and all this stuff, is like, okay, I've just got to tune into this frequency now and just start to just see what this looks like and just start to chip away at the denial, etc. But and then gratitude, I suppose, was the first thing. because, you know, at that time, you still got that judgmental mind, you know, whatever age you are. I've said that a few times, but, you know, you kind of hear a few things. And if it doesn't really sit well with you, you just, you'd be like, what's all that about? You know, it's a bit off-puttish, isn't it? Like mindfulness, meditation, counselling, it's just be like, well, you know,
we say on here all the time, like, say 5 years ago, if someone said you had meditation, you'd sort of look at them and think, prick, like, what's he on about? Like, it wasn't on the radar. It was again, it was one of them things. It was like meditation, you know, like you sort of think of that sort of person who does meditation.
Yeah.
But I mean, I meditate now, believe it or not, like, not as much as I want to, but.
Was you meditating at the O2 at 2 a.m. this morning?
I was meditating at the O2.
in the corner. Yeah.
I was trying to manifest an Uber.
Yeah, I know. But listen, this is great, and this is part of my maturity now, and a part of my learning, and a part of my experiences over the last 22 years, and what I feel like I can bring to the world is, you know, in various ways that I'll try to kind of put things out there, is there's so much on offer on the other side of judgment.
Yeah.
You know, because... And we're not trying to paint, you know, an amazing picture all the time here in a romantic world, because, you know, all these things on offer can come at a certain time of our life where we're more open. You know, more often than not, it does need to come as a consequence of not necessarily rock bottom, but something happens where you think...
Where you need a change.
Where you need a change, or you kind of hear something or see something or experience something where, you just feel like, okay, how can I navigate through this? You know, what am I doing... What can I do a little bit different? Because what I'm doing now isn't maybe what I need to be doing. You know, that could be anything. Like you said, we all kind of grow, and different things happen. We become fathers or mothers, or different responsibilities come away, and we feel like we need to show up in different ways. You know, what served me yesterday ain't going to serve me tomorrow. Yeah. And, you know, so it's pretty relentless in that way. But things like meditation and other things from a mental health perspective, which again is a bit of a new word this last 10 years or so, you know, things like this weren't being spoken about, mate. And I was the youngest by a long way. My best pal now is my best mate still today. I moved in with him after rehab. He's 50 next week, and I'm 41 nearly, so he's like 9 years older than me, which is still a pretty decent gap. Now it's becoming younger and younger, so that's amazing. But yeah, I lost my train of thought a little bit. But when I was in there, to go back to the gratitude piece. You were saying about like sort of 10 years ago, it was, again, 10 years ago, if someone said mental health, you think someone's going to get sectioned. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, it was
today for a lot of people. Yeah. Still today for a lot of people.
But I think the last 5 years especially, it's everywhere. And I think the awareness is fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. And, you know, and you're still, although the awareness is fantastic and there's lots of opportunities to go out and listen to, you know, different things or read different things. Like the information is vast now. The shortcoming of that is for me, it still kind of creates this noise around it where it's too much, you know. But I think beyond this, when things settle, it will find its place, you know, where people will find a way of consuming different information without thinking, you know, putting a label to everything all the time. Have I got this? Have I got that? Is this the matter with me? Is that the matter with me? You know, which is important that we kind of get a bit of clarity as to kind of the workings in between the years, because it's a funky place to be, you know, and to kind of coexist in this world and let everyone be, and still trying to carve out, you know, a life for yourself and seeing what full potential you've got and how you can contribute. But you're still having to deal with other human beings and other personalities, and, you know, as we all know, in the big wide world, everyone's, a lot of people, a lot of time are going through their own set of circumstances. Some people are out to get you. Some people are out to do what they like, how they like, when they like, and if you're not kind of on that road, it's hard to suffer that sometimes, and to kind of not feel like, like I said, there's a lot to it. You know, it can be complex, but stripping away the story of it, actually fundamentally it kind of always comes back to ourselves and kind of who we are, what we want to do, how we want to conduct ourselves, and you know, what's our intention, and kind of creating that environment around yourself where you can just have that type of energy more often than not, you know. And gratitude for me was that doorway into that way of thinking, because I can get me around that, you know. What you're grateful for. Okay, listen, at that time I didn't feel like I had a lot to be grateful for, because of where I was and the situation I was in. But there's always something to be grateful for. And if you use that as the pillow or the anchor to think, actually, glass half full, you know. There's a way out of this. there's a way out of this, and if you're consistent with your gratitude, then all of a sudden you become a bit more open to other things, and because your perception changes, that self-esteem starts to change, and you're like, okay. And yeah, gratitude's been a kind of a centerpiece of my life ever since, really.
Well, I met you through Run Grateful, ultimately.
Yeah.
Which, to explain, is a 24-hour marathon.
One of the things we do now, but that was the first thing that we did actually under the Run Grateful umbrella.
Yeah, which was great because for me,
2000, wasn't it? September 2000.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I had no experience with ice baths, meditation, yoga. You know, like, cause for me, listen, I'm a bloke's bloke. You know, I'm a bit, what's all that about? And I kind of fell into it. I was a bit like,
you literally did fall into that ice bath.
I did fall in the ice bath. Yeah. He's still never recovered down there. To be honest,
great. And ice baths weren't really a thing then either.
No,
no. So it was a good moment in time. That was just to obviously get introduced to you and get you part of it. But it was, it's the first time. Run Grateful was kind of brand new for me. That kind of come out of nowhere. So, during that COVID time, it's still that kind of social distances. You couldn't have more than 15, 16 people together in one place. So, even talking to you now, I give myself a pat on the back to kind of create that and to deliver that in that time. And was good. It's good people there, and it was a good day. It was.
And as mad as it is, you got 5 miles left. You want to just get it done, but you can't. And you really do have time to think, and I think that was what it was like. You've got 40 minutes left before you can run another mile, and you go and do a bit of yoga or something. But it's genius because you actually do start reflecting on life, and I think that was the idea. Obviously, that was the whole purpose of it, but it genuinely worked. It's one of them things. I left there. To be fair, I left there and pretty much died of COVID a week later.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
But
sign a disclaimer, it had nothing to do with us.
I don't know.
I don't know if you did actually. I don't know if I was that responsible. No, I'm sure saying went on, but that was 4 years ago, and
that's
we've
mad,
just
isn't
been
it?
to Australia to deliver that event as well. So progress has been made. But that's what I loved about the 24-hour concept, really, or kind of my, what I added to it, because in between them hours, it's a bit like life, for me, like within that 24-hour period, like an hour at a time, a mile at a time. How we using time, how do we perceive time, how we invest in that time that we've got. So in between the miles, there's just enough there to kind of try different things, whether it be the yoga, the ice bath, the meditations, we do other things now, the breathing. It's just to what's the word I'm looking for? Just to tap into it for a few moments, because that's kind of all you need, and
a little taster.
A little taster of things, and as you've kind of just brought up, like it served you well and kind of give you
it's given me the door
inspiration somewhere.
It's opened the door for, again, we had Joby on here a month or so ago. He's massive on his breathing. It's a big part of his life, the breath work. I would have just dissed it 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, I did really. I wouldn't go as far as say I dissed it, but I'd done breath work for the first time back in 2000, Sienna was about 3 months old, so 2005 to early 2006. And I had an amazing experience with it. I went away and done this kind of workshop, and it was incredible. It was one of them places where I was still pretty much early sobriety, and I kind of just become a father, and I was 2 or 3 years into kind of recovery now, so I was kind of, at a level of depth to something, but and what I mean by that is just, I was tuned in. That kind of spiritual way of life now was okay. I was curious about what that brought, and what opportunities were out there. So I come across this workshop someone introduced me to. It was amazing. It pretty intense. But part of that was this breath work, and I don't know if they called it breath work back then. I don't know, but an amazing experience. But it didn't kind of grab my attention too much. And then fast forward 2000, I think it was 2018. So a good 10, 12 years after, and all of a sudden I experienced it again, and proper grabbed me, and it's been really consistent ever since. So it just goes to show, just like timing with a lot of these things. You can try something one day, and it's just for whatever reason, just doesn't sit with you, and then you could try it another day, and it's just like bang, completely different, But
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do. I feel like I need to do more of that stuff. But time sometimes, and again, it's an excuse to say time because I do have time. But like this morning, I probably had a few hours that I could have spared if I weren't out last night.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so again, it's them life choices that you've got to kind of decide.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, it's very easy just with how the mind goes to kind of beat ourselves up or feel like we should be further than what we are, or to kind of compare ourselves with others about what they do and what they're perceived to be doing. I think we all know. I think we're both old enough now, and we know enough people. For whatever some have got more than others, whatever that means. Some are more successful than others. Again, whatever that means. It's all pretty much a story of some kind, but I think we all know that, listen, nothing's perfect, no one's perfect. Some days are better than other days. Some days we feel like we've got it locked. Some days we feel like we're riding that wave of thinking, okay, the lifestyle's okay, the well-being practices that I've got are okay, are pretty consistent. And then other days you just kind of fall off it a little bit, and then the mind kind of kicks, and to kind of get back to it is just hard, isn't it? I mean, I've kind of relate that to running. Because I love to run these days, and if you don't run for injury or whatever the scenario is for 2, 3, 4 weeks,
you feel like you're starting again.
Oh, you feel like it's a bit like that. It's like in life, like to get the mind tuned back in to kind of being in that place that exists because you've had it before, but the mind still kind of think, no, you can never get back there, or you're never going to do this, or it's a bit overwhelming and things like that, So it's pretty consistent, that kind of relentless nature of things.
Well, I think consistency is the key, and I think that's what I lack. I lack the consistency. Even with my training at the minute, I'm training 2 or 3 times a week. Then all of a sudden I train once a week, and that consistency is what lets me down. And I'm openly admitting that. That's kind of where I know where I go wrong. But watching someone like you seem very consistent in the way you deal with your life. You might tell me different, but you always come across like you're always doing something good. And you'll go, I'm going off to do X, Y, Z, and I think I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Okay, I can answer this. I'll try my very best. Listen, I've been around for a while now. When I say been around, I suppose a lot of people like to hear about my sobriety journey. That is kind of part of who I am now. It's not all of me, but that kind of sobriety piece shows a level of, I'm capable of something pretty outrageous, because a lot of people look at that and think, fucking, how did you do that? Or how did you do that? And it's kind of, people just interested or intrigued, which is amazing. And especially like the piece around the age that I was, etc. Like there's something there that, people are interested in, which I understand. But, I try my best to kind of, even though that is the reality, and I'm very proud of that, and I don't take it for granted, that I'm still a human being. I'm still trying to, get through and get by and pass through and all this kind of stuff. And for that to happen, and with the way that I choose to engage in the world, things come at you, so you never reach that perfect place where, you feel like you've arrived, you kind of
there's always a battle somewhere.
Well, the battle, and and I'll try not to, I'm trying to articulate this in the right way, but listen, I'm not perfect, no one's perfect, but I don't want to. I've got to be careful of the language that I use as well internally, because I do show a level of consistency, in my life, which serves me really well. But I suppose, throughout the last 2 or 3 years in particular, quite a few things have happened, which is kind of really rocked me and thrown me, and kind of, I've had to question a lot of things, and I've had to kind of really look at, certain aspects of my life and my thinking and how, just everything, and because just circumstantially quite, the boat has been rocked.
But listen, we went through bad times at the same sort of time, didn't we? A few years back, and I always think everything pans out. It always works out. You just can't see it at that moment in time. You look a year back and you think,
you just got to trust the path. And like I said, a lot of the language that I use now, and for just. You just got to kind of trust the path, trust the work, and it is worthwhile. You know, not consistently. Like you know, you want to have a laugh as well. You know what I mean? You're not here to just kind of keep delving and being, you know, processing things and looking at things and, you know, doing all this kind of jazz all the time. You know, it's just to use that information and to kind of use that self-awareness and to go out and kind of live it, you know, and for it, you know, not to be so heavy all the time. But I think we can all agree at the moment, like the energy around the place, you know, just the world really. And I don't consume much of a lot, you know, I don't read the news or watch the news and other bits and pieces, which can be a little bit daunting sometimes if you just look at, you know, what's going on. You're like, oh God. But still, you can feel that energy is heavy for a lot of people. You know,
big time.
You know, and I'm the type, you know, I grew up in a certain environment, you know, i.e. AA and other places in and around that kind of vibe, where you know, I'm very solution based now. You know, it's in me, it's in the fabric of me. I know what can be done by doing certain things and looking a certain way and kind of, you know, trying to contribute in certain ways and being open and listening to people and helping people. And so for me to feel powerless in certain ways is hard sometimes, you know, because you want to, what's the solution here? You know, we can get through certain things. We can hold a certain feeling for a while. You know, to feel isn't always a complete disaster. We are human beings. You know, we're allowed to feel things.
Yeah,
you've got to be very careful. Like, there's fine lines with a lot of this stuff because you don't want to feel sorry for yourself. But grief is grief, and to kind of exist, kind of is what it is. You know, and my kind of go-to in the past, i.e. kind of starting himself as an addict or whatever, is to not feel. I want to escape it. No one, you know, and even now today, 22, no one wants to feel some of these feelings. You know, no one, because fucking they're uncomfortable, mate. You know what I mean? There's that anxiety, there's that stress, there's that fear, there's that uncertainty, there's that doubt, and this, you know, it does. It's not, you know, it's not ideal to feel that more often than not. But to kind of ride that wave and to kind of work through it. How bad
would you'd have that feelings tenfold if you was sticking a load of gear up your nose? And
mate, and that's it. And that's where just 100,000,000%, no doubt in my mind, that held nothing for me, no value whatsoever. I can say, you know, like I said, that slips off my tongue. That took a lot of time to arrive there. When I say a lot of time, it's all relative, whether it is 6 months, a year, some people could be a day, some people it takes whatever. Yeah, for me now, yeah, I think it goes back to earlier in our conversation. If I was to, you know, if I was to hit a dodgy time and my head was to be consumed with go and have a drink, go and have a drink, go and have a snort, no, you know, then I'll be in trouble, you know.
Yeah,
but there is complete and utter acceptance now that is not the way. That will not bring anything to my life. That will not bring no value. That will not bring anything that will support me in this moment of time. And even with gambling, you know, with sex, with running, with fitness, all these kind of addictions, I still don't feel like, and this is where I do kind of even talk to you now actually, just with certain things that are going on at the moment. Yeah, I'm pretty proud that I kind of sit with what comes, you know, and I've just been away to do something just to kind of create that space for myself, because it can become really overwhelming, you know, and it can become
but then that's life in general, isn't it?
Yeah, of
like
course.
life. You could be a mother at home and life's overwhelming. You know,
mate, to be a single mum, to be a single dad, or to go through losing people, or to be made redundant.
Yeah.
You know,
Life's
like
hard.
you said, mate, life is
hard.
Life is very hard,
Yeah.
and like, you know, as an optimist, more often than not, you'd like to look at it and think, okay, life is hard, and you know, not with that kind of brute, just, you know, shoulders back type of mentality, but.
I think it's just
contradictory, but contradictory to that is there is that kind of grit and resilience that is needed to think this is listen, for whatever reason we've all been plonked here. I didn't ask to be here. I swam hard enough apparently, but I can't remember too much about that. You know, I must have been running away from saying wherever I was before. But yeah, and it's just like you got to get on with it. You know, and you have got to.
Well, I think that's the answer. I think you have to just keep moving forward, don't you?
But sometimes, like you said, it is tough. You know, just to kind of be knocked down and to kind of be people doing things. You know, and it's largely out of your control. You know, and this is what I'm learning now. Maybe going to another layer of what life is for me. You know, I just took myself away to something which was completely random, completely spontaneous, but just kind of create that space because it is going on around you. Yeah. You know, it really is. But kind of how you're reacting to that, and kind of what's your place within that, and are you? Yeah, mate, it can be a bit of a minefield, and even me talking to you now, I'm thinking like, okay, you're overcomplicating it, But
tell me more about that retreat. 'Cause that retreat sounds incredible.
Yeah, no, it was like it never happened. Now it's crazy, but the like I said, the last couple of years or whatever, there's been a few things going on. Big things. Like change of environment, financial ruin. Divorce. Lovely things, and of course, it sounds like funny. But listen, it is what it is. For whatever reason. And so you're just trying to kind of weave through that and to kind of accept it, and my part in that, and a lot of it is that divorce is very amicable.
And you look at the stats now.
Yeah,
like it must be 50% of all marriages are failing within a certain amount of years. Like,
do they?
It's crazy. The divorce rates are crazy.
You just brought back a little. It's amazing what's kind of in the back of your mind somewhere. Talking of stats, I remember when I left rehab. Someone threw a stat at me, because I went after Wales for 3 months. I went to Weymouth for 3 months. So I had 6 months out, really.
Yeah.
And when the time was coming up in Weymouth to come back home, they were like, the stats are, you ain't going to survive. You know what I mean? You are going to relapse prevention, all this kind of stuff. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And there was no real ego there. I was thinking, no, I'll prove you wrong. None of that stuff going on. I heard it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was still in a scary, vulnerable spot. Yes, I had 6 months, but grand scheme of things, you've been wrapped up. Your breakfast, lunch, and dinner's been cooked. You had to clean the toilet every morning, or mow the grass, or you had responsibilities. But fundamentally, it was like I said, I don't want to paint it to be a luxury. It was very, very difficult. But yeah, I wasn't in the outside world necessarily. Like open to opportunities or choices, and so I had to be very careful. But anyway, the stat thing. Yeah, I forgot who it was, but I remember listening to that, thinking, I ain't going to be one of them. I ain't going to be one of them stats. Like, if I want this enough, and if I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober, then you ain't having me. I ain't going back there. No way in the world. And so that was then. So to bring that into kind of current day, and that kind of fed into the marriage thing. I don't want to say too much, because that ain't all my story to tell, and my daughters and stuff like that. But
yeah, of course.
So I won't say more than what they know. But I don't want to speak so generally either, because that's dangerous sometimes as well. But being as specific as I can, we were married a long time. 15 odd years, together for 18 odd years. 2 amazing daughters, a lot of respect, a lot of love. Still care for her a great deal. We still get on very, very well. But taking that mindset into the marriage, I take it very seriously. And I wanted to be married forever. And we know that it's going to have ups and downs. Well, it's the vows, isn't it? Through thick and thin and up to whatever the fucking vows. I've forgotten that, it's so long ago. But
sickness.
But yeah, just like the recovery thing. Do you give up? You know what I mean? Do you stop just because things are a bit tight, or a bit this or a bit that? And no, like, you see it through. You communicate, etc. It just so happened, in a loving way. We sat down. We had maybe a couple of conversations, a couple of years prior to it kind of finally ending. Where where are we at, what we're doing, where we're going, how we're going to get there, and it's just I remember saying this to my girls at the time, that I can maybe try to articulate 98% of why we are where we are, and a lot of it will make some sense. You can kind of carve out a little bit of sense across it all, but that missing 2%, which would just give you that golden answer as to why I can't give you.
Yeah,
and I still don't know now, and that's just the tapestry of life, as you've kind of mentioned more than once. It's just different stages, different things happen, or you think different ways, or the journey I'm on.
Sometimes you just grow apart, don't you?
Grow apart, yeah.
And
it's a shame.
And it is a shame, and we used to talk about, your grandparents were together for 50, 60 years. Some of them were. And they fucking hated each other, but there was no way out. So, as much as in an ideal romantic world, we all stay together forever. I've come from broken relationships, but it was for the best. And each time, I think I've come out with children, and like certain friends for me. So you do take out the good parts, but I think sometimes you need to. And again, it might not be both parties, but sometimes there's a happiness that's not 100%, and you can find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, of course. And, throughout, the hope is that you land at that stage of the process of the grief where, there's acceptance and it's like, okay, what's done is done, and like I said, the way that we dealt with it and handled it in the grand scheme of things was the most healthiest way
you put the
possible.
kids first, that's the thing.
Put the kids first, we're very honest with the kids, and I never call them kids, the girls, I call them the girls, the kids, well, that's a bit random. But yeah, it's one of them where if you were to know now what you knew then, because what's happened afterwards has been, you need to hold tight, because the emotion that comes and everything, just with the girls and other bits, and to sit them down on that day and to call them down to the lounge and to kind of share what we shared, knowing that their lives were going to change forever, and our life, not good.
Big moment,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Big moment, like really not, you don't want to find yourself at that stage. But yeah, fast forward to get back to the point. Some things have happened, and which is okay. So it's just to kind of just acknowledge it, to kind of go through it, and other bits and pieces, and just circumstantial that 2 or 3 other things happen in and around that time.
I think but that's what makes it worse. I think if it's one thing, it's a lot easier to deal with. If you've got multiple things, it does feel like the pressure's piling on, doesn't it?
It was a shame that a few things happened. This is like, fuck, like, come on now, throw me a bone. Yeah. Because a lot of it is quite positive as well, and maybe, without talking specifically, and what I mean by that is it could seem, if you don't tell the whole story, it could seem that it was all because of one thing, business didn't work, financial ruin because of the divorce, and it wasn't. None of it was because of anything.
No,
it was just
wasn't linked. Yeah.
It wasn't linked. It was just all bad going on. Just, you got divorced because you work so hard, or because none of that. It's none of that. But it could. But anyway, look, like I said, it is what it is. But yeah, and then I left it a good few months, and then got involved in another relationship, which kind of broke. That kind of broke down tail end of the year last year, and that was very sad and upsetting, and other things. So yeah, there's just been and also with that responsibility of being X amount of years sober, sometimes I feel like I shouldn't find myself and even talking to you now, mate. It's turning into a bit of a therapy session. I shouldn't find myself in certain scenarios because there's a level of self-awareness, there's a level of experiences and evidence that I've got to feel like, stuff like this shouldn't really happen in inverted commas. And that's quite sad, actually, even saying that now is just like, fucking hell.
How do you mean on that? Is that you sort of trying to protect yourself?
Maybe. It's just, like I said, some of this I just come into mind as I'm talking to you, so I have to kind of go and investigate afterwards.
Like a lot of people, they hold back and they won't commit to relationships after, because they're frightened of what they don't want to go through the breakup again. But
there is that. But I just think collectively, just with some of what I do and how I do it, sometimes I feel like I should. That's another conversation. But the Vipassana that I decided to kind of do was, pretty spontaneous. So a few days prior to me going, which was the week before last, didn't even know what Vipassana was really. I thought
it was a cocktail.
Yes, there's none of them there, mate. But it was amazing, and I was proud that I, as always, had the open mind to kind of do these things, and I kind of Googled. I think I googled silent retreat, and because I just felt like I needed to create space. I was in a pretty heightened state. There's a lot going on, a lot of really positive things going on, and this time last year I was kind of at a certain things weren't so great maybe, and I could kind of just feel some of that overwhelm coming back. I was like, listen, Mike, you ain't there. You're far from it, so you just got to just manage it and not get too caught up in the story of it all. And it's like, okay, how can I learn from last year? So I thought, just take yourself off. It felt a little bit irresponsible because of responsibilities and my daughters and other bits and pieces, but I thought you just need to fuck off. You know what I mean? You just need to drop your phone. In 20 years of like self-employment, trying to carve out certain things, I've never not been without my phone. I've never not chased. I've always kind of just waiting for that. The coup.
I think that's the next addiction, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, there's something in that because it's kind of tied up with bills and life. You feel like you haven't got a choice but to keep on that horse, and especially the self-employment thing and that kind of push and pull with it all. Like, no one's putting a gun to me head. I can go and get a job in Tesco's tomorrow if I wanted. But then always just trying to honour myself and my outlook and what I'm trying to do and knowing, feeding back into some of the stuff I've learned in recovery, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like to create and to do and to be just to kind of do something important and to build. This is what it feels like. The ups and downs, the behind the scenes, the being let down, the waiting on this, the waiting on that, the not, what can you do within your realm, what can you do with what you've got, all this kind of, so this is it, and I said 10, 12 years ago, this is in me, call it what you like, entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, so whatever, this is what it is. So in like 20 years of this way of being, I just kind of looked at myself to think, like, you've never had a period of time, I've had weekends, and I've gone off and done various lovely things, and I've had holidays, with the family, but you're never fully in, you're never fully in. And
I think you make yourself too accessible. That's the trouble, sorry. In the old days, you wouldn't ring someone's house phone after 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, like, whereas now, because of mobile, it's one of them weird ones where you're like, I'll have people ringing me at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I've allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
Because really, there's nothing, they don't need me at 6, surely.
No, that's it.
I mean, every now and again's emergency, but I started taking calls at 7 and I started taking calls at 6. Like, I should have shut that down.
Yeah.
And I think we've all become slaves to the mobiles.
But that's, you just kind of shared, there's a level of self-awareness around that. Your behaviour isn't as it should be. I say should be, could. I'm not a fan of that type of terminology, but we need to protect ourselves within this somewhere along the line as well, because otherwise you can just become. Otherwise, there's no boundary with it. There's no kind of stop, or there's no line, and you just fall into this. You fall into this way because it's socially accepted now. There's an expectation that, like you mentioned, you're always there. And I'm the same. I'm not. I'm a busy-headed guy, and I want things done, and I want to be proactive, and I want to be kind of one foot in front of the other, and I'm not impatient. So I feel like I've got a pretty decent. It's always a dance, but sometimes I feel like things take time, Mark. And then you kind of so you just got to embrace the process with all that comes. But listen, it is what it is. So to kind of think, you've never had this time off. You've never left phones behind. You've never carved out this kind of, and it seems a bit harsh, but just go and be completely silent. I've done a silent retreat a few years ago, 2008 or 9. Me, Gracie she's 70, so around about that time. And it was 80% silent. I'll share the room with my pal, and so we had, we had a little chat. We had a little chat every, most nights and stuff. But still, at that time, 80% silent was
80%
pretty hardcore.
Nothing,
fucking, and it was an amazing time. Top of a mountain in Mallorca, learnt a lot. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I've been at this stuff for a very long time now, talking to you about it. But this was completely, mate. If I said 50 words in 7 days, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, it's mad.
And it's only because you get an opportunity to have 10 minutes with a teacher, just to kind of talk about your practice and if there's any kind of doubt in your mind. So it's very to the point, it's not, let's have a conversation. So, yeah, mate, it's amazing. So it was over in Reading, shared with my girls. I said, listen, Dad needs to do this. So, I'm going to be going to this place, complete lock off, phone stand behind, out of office, went on for the first time ever.
Yeah.
A few decisions I was waiting on, or a few people that might wonder where I am because I'm quite easily accessible. I just kind of put a message on my WhatsApp to say I'm off WhatsApp, etc., etc. I kind of, set the scene the best way I could leading up to it, just so I felt like I'd done my best to, be responsible, because a big part of me was still very much like, oh, you can't go away, you need to do this, you need to do this.
You're tied, you're tied to your life,
You can never create that perfect scenario, ever, and it's just like, you just need to do this. So, it was a Vipassana retreat, and yes, silence. It was like up at 4 a.m. Well, bell went at 4 a.m. Up at 4:30. In bed by like 9:30, and it was just a lot of meditation, a lot of walking meditation, sitting meditation. There's some, Yeah. There was
and some new people, some good networking for. Well, I suppose I was saying that you can't talk to anyone, so
you can't do that. And even the networking thing, like you said, do you know what? That was one of the most powerful things with it. I mean, even Vipassana is like seeing things for. I think it's like seeing things for as they are. That's what it means, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want to go anywhere, and want to be anyone or expect anything from anyone or anyone expects anything from me. So even that, like you said, it's in us. It's just like, okay, who's going to be there? Or what? Fuck that. I didn't care. I didn't want to know who you was. And like I said, it was helpful that no one could
brilliant.
talk.
Yeah, it's actually,
and that was part of the experience that I wanted. It's just I always feel like someone wants something from me or I want something from somebody else, and I don't like coming from that space. That's not really what I'm about. But because of pressures and because of consequences to certain things, I feel like that energy is around me more often than not. And listen, you've got to live in the real world. There's an expectation, and like I said, there's a trade-off with certain people in certain areas of life. So, but that's what it is. I'm not kind of completely downplaying it. But anyway, it felt the balance was a bit off. So to go somewhere and to not talk to anybody and to not know anybody, it's like they weren't there. It's like you're in your own little bubble, and to kind of have the ability or to kind of now get a sense of how you could support yourself with not getting so consumed with the mind, and just observing it and
switching the brain off.
Well, yeah, but part of it for me is sometimes with the meditation thing is I can't switch my brain off. Yeah, which is okay. Maybe that day will come where through practice and consistency you reach that level of expertise where you've got enough control in inverted commas over your mind to feel like it's not saying nothing to you, which sounds blissful. And to be fair, I had a meditation experience, which was something I've never had before in my life whilst there, which is amazing. But fundamentally, Vipassana for me felt like you're observing the mind. The mind is there, the thoughts were there, the patterns were there, but you're just kind of looking. You're creating space between you and your mind, so you could kind of just observe it, and it's quite it was quite a new way of me experimenting with that type of meditation, really. Sometimes I feel like meditation, well, there's lots of various meditations out there. Some of it's like mantra-based or visualization-based, or like you said, just trying to find your chi and just that rest and all that. Like, nothing matters for a minute, or you want a few insights, or you're just trying to get a bit of clarity in certain areas. And some of them are guided. You can jump on YouTube and press play to a few things. Some of it get it through yoga, through running, whatever meditative state you find yourself in. So for me, this was quite new. And yeah, mate, it's really interesting, to kind of...
And it heightened all your other senses, I bet. Like.
Heightened the sense, the mindful approach, and which is great. As you know, mindful movement is something that's big in my life. It's a big part of Run Grateful, in attaching mindfulness to your miles and to attach gratitude to your miles. And, we do more than a 24-hour thing. But yeah, everything that my life represents, everything that I'm about. So this was good education for me. And it was, like I said, to kind of go, not know anybody, and to not expect too much, and just to kind of dive in. A lot of people left. It was like 50 started, just over, I think 31 finished. That was shared with us at the end, because it's intense. We're on a holiday, and you're up for a lot of hours. You're meditating for a lot of hours. I'd never had a meditation practice, so physically it's quite hard on you and all. Like, you're not sitting in no cinema chairs, and you're out in the elements as well, which added another little bit of something to it.
I've noticed that with breathing, like breathing done properly is exhausting.
Yeah.
Like it's a proper workout.
But it's all exhausting. The mind's exhausting as well. The way we suffer, mate. I know we've had conversations in the past. The suffering we put ourselves through is excruciating. Yeah, we don't deserve. Listen, there's a few people out there which, you can quite easily judge because of some of what they've done, and you kind of think, okay, don't come nowhere near me because you're just wrong. But most people, we're all right. You know what I mean? And but the suffering we put ourselves through is relentless.
We're gluttons for it. Well, that's the trouble. I think you get used to it. The more, it's like anything, the more you get used to it, the more you deal with it, and the more you take on more.
Yeah,
you know, like
take on more. And like you said, just the nature of the beast with the mind and with the world and with what we're tuned into, and that not necessarily more. But yeah, it can be suffocating. And then the older you get, and maybe if you are having to make some big life choices, and how they settle in you, and how that kind of grief settles in you, plays out somewhere, you know, and it's just all living within you, and it's just like, okay, where is it being placed? Where is it coming out? How are we reacting to it? And I suppose, the longer you get on, you know, we never get out of here alive, but then also, you know, just like the choices you made and responsibilities you have, and having to live and die by your choices, you know, can kind of add to that suffering. And, you know, that's the way they're describing a lot of the spiritual world, is the story, attaching yourself to the story about what's gone, and just like, and how it's still playing out, and it doesn't, it's just a story, it doesn't exist, you know, and sometimes if you don't quite know what they're meaning by that, or you're not hearing it maybe how it's trying to be described, of course it exists, it's tangible enough, I know it because I lived it, and it's happened, and it's made me feel it. Of course it doesn't, it's just you hanging on to it, it's you attaching yourself to it, it's you still living in that hell of it, or that suffering of it, when it don't need to be about that, you know. So like I said, this stuff ain't an overnight fix, you know. You can go quite deep with it, but on the surface, that's part of the barrier to it, because it hasn't got to be so deep. We make it deep, you know, because we make it complex. But you know, such is life.
On that, roll us into Ungrateful and what the plan is, and how people find out about it.
Yeah, Ungrateful, as you know, love it. It's done a lot of good things over the years, met some amazing people over the time. It was kind of running alongside something else that I was up to that didn't quite go to plan, but there's a common thread going through everything that I do. So now, for Ungrateful to be my main focus, excites me quite a lot, you know, because it's scalable, you know, with what it represents. It's gratitude and it's movement. It's accessible for most people, you know, so it's all centered around the grateful mile and that experience, and investing that time more often than not, hopefully on a daily basis. We spoke about consistency and about positive practices. So if you can get out and walk a mile or two or whatever on a daily basis, and use that time to focus on gratitude and what you're grateful for, and the people in your life that you appreciate and that inspire you and uplift you and are there for you, and you can let them know, then they get a bit of gratitude in there. So everyone wins, really. Even if you feel like you haven't got nothing to be grateful for, hopefully under the Ungrateful umbrella, we can kind of guide and facilitate certain areas of that journey as well. But you know, I'm super excited about it. We do workplace experiences to kind of hopefully fund other areas, which is a bit more social impact.
Well, even like that, getting into the workplace and getting people who wouldn't think about walking a mile. Walking's so good for people.
Walking meetings, getting out of your desk, and that's the good thing in the power of the mile. You know, we're not asking people to run 5Ks. Running isn't for everybody, you know, and people, I mean, we're all born to run in a lot of ways, but some people, you know, can't move in certain ways, whatever their reality is. So it's harsh on some, but if you can move in certain ways, then what a privilege, you know, to go out as a superpower, mate. To go
like
out,
you say, to be grateful. If you've got nothing to be grateful for, if you can walk a mile.
If you can walk a mile. I mean, I've had, you know, a good few years ago now, I was really, really ill in hospital, and you know, I couldn't go to the toilet by myself. So I always think back to them days to think, one, you know, not too long ago, you couldn't walk. And now you can. So all that kind of stuff. So as a light touch, yes, if you've got two legs or you're able to move in certain ways, then absolutely, that's not a bad place to start.
I think again, we take it for granted, don't we? It's the silly things. Like, I remember when I had COVID, I remember waking up.
You were rough.
I woke up after day 7 of coming out, and my legs didn't work, and I was like, you know, but you suddenly think, is this the new reality in my life? Like, and luckily, you know, we got them back working. But like to go through, you know, it's something you take for granted just every day, just being able to get up and go for a run, go for a jog, go for a walk. Like I'd go for 2 kilometres and I have to go back and sleep for 3 hours.
Of course,
Like, so we've got to be grateful just for the small things. I think that's the thing. There is always something to be grateful for, isn't there?
And that's the power of the mile, I suppose. Well, I've shared a good few things around it, but in particular, because it's that opportunity, hopefully on a daily basis, where you can half reset and, like you said, just strip things back to basics, to think, okay, you know, whatever time of the day it is, you can start your day at whatever time. You know, if you're having a bit of a rough morning, do a grateful morning in the afternoon. It's like, oh, okay, listen, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. If I need to change my perspective on something or my feeling of something, or just need time out, just, you know, 10, if you're running it, I don't know, if you're walking it, worst case, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, pretty decent, just kind of slow. Mate, if you can't invest that amount of time in your day, then alarm bells are ringing.
Well, I think even where so many people are working from home now, they're stuck to the desk, and I think they need that. Like my missus, prime example. She's so busy. She's working from home a couple of days a week. She's so busy she can't get away. She needs to be able to take half hour for her own brain. I mean, we all do, but like I see it, I'm seeing it with people who are they. This is a great reason, a great excuse to get them out away from the desk, get them into nature, whether it's down the river or just walk around the town, wherever. But just to think about himself for half hour, rather than, because again we're all becoming slaves, and the more that's pushed on us, the more we sort of take on. And I think it's so important. And listen, I'm the same. I need to find that half hour a day. We're all guilty.
Yeah, of course we are. Yeah, and like I said, I'm no scientist. I shared this the other day on another podcast, but it's there. Proof's in the pudding. Like to get outdoors. If you depending on what environment. Listen, if you're in Broadwater Farm, I'm sure there's like, mate, you won't come walking around here.
Well, it make you run faster, wouldn't it?
It'll make you run faster. But I'm only saying that not out of turn, because I know people that live there, and I'm close friends with people that live there, and it's just like, but that's part of the attachment to the story. It's just like whatever our environment, if we kind of get a sense of hope. Whether you're walking around thinking, okay, how can I contribute towards this place? How can I make it better? And that's a lot of my Your Town work, which we haven't really touched on. But we can all complain, we haven't got the time, or why do I want to go outdoors around this place, or we'll go and walk with that, but it's just like, okay, let's strip it back. Like, what can I do? How can I contribute? Instead of complaining about saying, kind of, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
So a lot of that goes into the fabric. So same with Ungrateful, and the workplace experiences, and there's obviously a big conversation now, so there's a good audience there to kind of get this work into, and I like the way we position ourselves, because if you haven't got a gratitude practice but you move often, because you like going out for a walk or a run or whatever, then fantastic, because this might be an introduction into how you can get a gratitude practice into your life, which is quite light, but it's a nice thing to have in your armoury. But if you've got your gratitude practice but you're a bit inactive and you're just like, the idea of running, just terrifies you, then just chip away at the miles, a bit like the days and a bit like the moments. Chip away at the miles, and all of a sudden one day rolls into another day, a mile turns into 2, and wherever it takes you, we're not expecting that mile to turn into an ultra marathon, but as long as you kind of, you're keeping a bit of momentum, and and then all of a sudden the self-worth, because you're moving your body, and mate, like I said, it's science. You're going to feel better, and then you might tap into other areas of your life, like your lifestyle around certain things you might be doing. All of a sudden, bang, and running done that for me. I was like 10, 11 years sober, so I had a level of lifestyle which was healthy. You could, but I still had multiple lights and all that kind of stuff. So I give up smoking, started to run, and all of a sudden that just opened up this whole new world for me. Around other areas of my life, around kind of diet and around other types of movement, and it's like bang, it's like, no one told me this. I just thought I was trying to give up mobile lights, and so you never know what's around the corner. That's what I'm saying.
One thing leads to another.
It just opens you up in your mind. Think, okay, and then you could either beat yourself over the head with it and say, fucking hell, why am I listening to these now? Because a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about now has been shared. I'm just sharing things that I've heard. These are not really my words. I might just be remixing them slightly somewhere along the line, but it's not Chinese whispers here. It's there for all to see. Yeah. Just wherever time we are in our life where we're open to this stuff, or we've got that willingness to kind of have it in our lives. And if running ain't for you, then fuck it, try netball or try animal flow or try CrossFit. Just anything, just please. And even if gratitude, I've never heard anyone to say, it ain't brought any value to their life, but even if gratitude ain't, go and find something. Just, more often than not, try and get out of that prison of your own mind, that own suffering. Go out there, try and help others, try and help yourself, and if we can do something under the Ungrateful umbrella to facilitate that for you, crack on, get involved with what we do, and if not, just find something else. Just don't suffer. Try not to hurt people, and hopefully everyone finds their way.
Yeah. How do people get in touch with Ungrateful or yourself?
Ungrateful.com. Really? So,
it's that simple.
It's there. Yeah. So. We're on our way, more than most. So there's some good stuff going on. So we'll see. I've got a hunch. Good things are on the horizon. Nice. So it's great. So it's out in the world. You ain't gonna, I think the world's a better place with it anyway. So So with that in mind, we're kind of crack on and continue doing what needs to be done, and trust the outcome. And if not, I'll come and knock a few walls down for you, or paint the studio or whatever. You know what I mean? We see.
Destiny's doing.
Yeah, Destiny's doing. No, but listen, it's all cool. It's you know, I do my best more often than not, and I'm still trying to muddle my way through. But yeah, I've been very consistent over the years with just trying to remain teachable and trying to consume things not for the sake of it. You know, I don't read books, I don't listen to podcast upon podcast, because you can get lost in thinking, you know, oh, I heard that, that might sound good over there. No, you got to live it. You know what I mean? And by living it, you know, that it ain't perfect and that you're going to fall over, and human beings let you down. I'm going to let people down, but fundamentally, you know, I'm coming from a good place, which hopefully, on my deathbed will make me give myself a pat on the back. You know, I wasn't trying to whatever, but we'll see, mate.
Listen, I think people do listen and they do follow you. You know, they do. I think, you know, the things you've done, even like what you just mentioned with the give your town a run around. Like, you got how many people running in how many towns? Yeah,
and that's why I've got to get over myself a little bit, because I'm lucky enough. It's this kind of world of maybe stepping into different arenas and communicating. Like, the world is noisy. Like, there's so many things out there. There's so many people, you know, trying to do good, not, you know, trying to, whatever their reasons are. It's not for me to judge necessarily, but listen, some good things have gone on, and some people have really appreciate what I've done and what I do, and they kind of reach out and you know, I've been in a certain environment. 22 years ago, I entered into certain things where I know the value of opening your mouth and showing up, and listening to others, and to identifying with people and looking at the similarities and not the differences, looking at what can be done rather than what can't be done. So ideas, you know, but to kind of take yourself out of that place into the open world where maybe, you know, your voice is on a, you know, to a wider field, is because as a consequence of that, you're open to people and
it's a scary place. Well, like you say, you put yourself out. A lot of the work
goes in the shadows. I don't want to be one of them guys that are just like, you know, but like I said, some of that is just fear, you know, and insecurity, because
you can't get shot if you don't put your head above the parapet. You know, it's like, but sometimes you need to get up there and shout.
And you know, over the years, I'm really proud of the impact that I've had, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done, and the people that have felt supported throughout that. So if I can take that to new heights, and it just means that I need to be on things like this, then so be it, you know. And so we'll see. But it's where I belong.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, obviously, like I said, I've known you a few years now, so.
I like to think I'm not full of shit. Like I said, I like to think I'm realistic with my approach. You know?
I think you're very innovative, not just in business, just in life. You know, like you say, that silent retreat. I look at it and I think that's crazy. Like, I want to do it, or at least send one of my ex-misses on it.
I think I see her there, actually. She had this T-shirt on. I hate Brett. Is that her?
I think they was mass produced, by the way.
Yeah,
got a good deal on them.
So that was another thing we finish up on with the Vipassana was, like I said, there was just all these people there. You didn't talk to them for the first 6.5 days or whatever. Like, you had a thing on the last morning where you could open your mouths, which was handy. I didn't really struggle with the silence thing necessarily, but it was, the thoughts obviously cross your mind whilst you're there, once you're in and amongst the energy of what you're there for. And you just look around thinking, like, it's mad, the world, isn't it? Like, all these people will come together at this time, at this place. No one knows each other. Everyone's got their own story. Everyone's got their reason for being there. And here we all are together having this experience. I don't know anybody. You know, there's a mixture of male, female, young, old, black, white, you know, everyone. You just think we're just all trying to kind of figure certain things out at certain times.
Better yourself, or like,
and for some, as you just alluded to, like, it might be an extreme. Take yourself away and be silent and get up at 4:30 a.m. and meditate for 12 hours. For some, it's like, no, thank you. I get my relief from going to see Liam Gallagher or so, whatever, you know. But mate, some amazing things are out there. Just try them. But what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, some people left, but. Just
but even that, they probably still took something from it. If they'd done that for 2 or 3 days and then gone home, I bet I bet they regret leaving. You know, it's one of them.
But instead of, and like I said, I don't know him. I'll probably never see him again. But that's the mind. Regret the leaving, but kind of congratulate yourself for going in the first place and being willing to at least, wherever it takes you is part of it. But yeah, what recovery's shown me in particular, I'm still going with that, obviously. Like, I've never reached that final destination with it, but if you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to commit to doing something, see it through. It's like leaving the Spurs match halfway through, Some days we claw it back in the final minute, you know, and it's just like leave at the end. Never judge anything just halfway through. Just see it through. As hard as it is, because it's really hard sometimes, but just dig fucking deep, and just no matter what, just don't give up, you know what I mean? But the wise man probably knows when to say no, but then there's that fine lines between just don't give up, just keep going. It might not be the eventuality, it might not be how you visualised it ending, but it's always going to end up being how it's meant to be, and sometimes a bit romantic, that lens, but that's the truth.
But I think the key is to never fear failure.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. That's what holds a lot of people back.
Yeah, and if the stakes are high, I'll try not to, over the years, I know we've spoken about this, to draw too many people in sometimes, because you don't want that to weigh on you, and other people. So it's always, for me, that's that delicate one. Always try and do things responsibly, because having that burden of la and go out there and do this and just being a bit of a wild west is like, it's a delicate world out there. Like these things matter.
Yeah, now more than ever, I feel.
Yeah, it comes with a big responsibility. Yeah. So tread carefully and be responsible, that kind of stuff. And if you need to go to these places to get something at a certain stage of your life, then go do it. Yeah, don't hold back.
Yeah, listen, there's a million reasons to not go, but you only want to go. I think you've got to make them moves if that's your thing. For me, I look at it and I think to be away from my phone for 7 days would be so good.
Yeah,
to not talk. Like, I love what you've done. I like the little things you do, whether it's from innovating things like Run Grateful or to give your town a run around. Like, you should be proud of yourself, mate.
Yeah, that's good. Like I say, ultimately it's about my daughters. You know what I mean? So if I need to go off for 7 days, and not that I do it every week, but for them to kind of see subtly that actually, these things do exist. You need to look after yourself, and I'm just that kind of dad anyway. So we've got a beautiful relationship between us. But they see some of the work that I've done over the years. I've got them involved as much as possible, and somewhere along the line that stuff sits in, and that stuff resonates with you, and they're on their own journey. They can get up to where there's no pressure on them for me, for them to do crack on. But their ABCs are in place, which is the way I describe it. But we'll see. All
good, mate. All good. Well, look, we'll wrap this one up. But thanks for coming in today and sharing your insights.
God knows how that come across, but we'll see. We'll see how it lands with people. I'm sure there's something in there for somebody. So if not, move on and go and listen to another one. But that's it, isn't it? Good man.
Top man, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Cheers, mate.